What if somebody told you to add stress to your retirement plan? That sounds like the opposite of what you want. Who wants stress? No one wants that. But in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why adding stress to your retirement plan can actually increase your confidence in the plan over time and give you the confidence that you need to actually cut the cord and hand in that resignation letter. Hi, I'm Evan Neufeld. I'm a certified financial planner professional, and every day I help Canadians just like you prepare for a retirement that you can be confident in. Today, I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can stress test your retirement plan, and then I'll show you ways that you can do it yourself absolutely free. Let's hop on the computer and take a look. So when many of you plan for your own retirement, or maybe you've done a retirement calculator, things like that, you see a lot of straight lines. You put in an investment rate of return, and it just happens to go straight up all the time. That's all well and good, and a lot of people talk about using an average rate of return for the retirement. Maybe that's 4, 5, 6%. Maybe you go really high. I would say probably too high. It's beyond there at 7, 8, 9, 10. Regardless of what your assumptions are, if you just have straight lines in your retirement plan, it doesn't really account for reality. And this is what stress testing really does, is it incorporates a version of what reality might look like. It's not going to be perfect, but we never see straight lines when we look at a portfolio in real life. And so your retirement plan should have a little bit of variance baked into it. So here's 2 ways that we can do that. For this hypothetical client, I have a rate of return that is assumed over the course of their life. There's some pre-retirement, some post-retirement. It's a blended average return based on how they would be invested. And so that number ends up at about 5.63% in their pre-retirement years, 5.28% post-retirement. Let's just call it 5 and a bit. So this first version of stress testing, it looks at variance. So this one's a relatively easy one that you can do on your own. So if you are already doing your own retirement planning, including just some simple projections, what you can do is just then factor in a lower rate of return. Pretty self-explanatory, but what this does is it gives you some additional wiggle room to see if perhaps things aren't as good in the future, what that might end up looking like for you. So for this couple here, if they end up with returns that are half as good as what they anticipated, so you can see on the screen here it says 2.64% long-term returns on average, they actually run out of money by 2048 in this case. Okay, and so that's probably a little extreme perhaps, but you never know, it could happen. All right, so even here at 2055, if they get 30% worse returns over the course of their life, they're going to run out of money. So what can you do in this case? Well, you can adjust some of your variables in real life, meaning you can increase the amount of savings that you do. You could work a little bit longer. You can adjust when you take CPP. There's a variety of things that you can do, and if you have a financial planner, they can walk you through a variety of those options there. So as far as doing this yourself, if you're already just running a simple retirement calculator, maybe just decrease your average rate of return by 10, 20, 30% and see where that puts you in terms of how much you should be saving, when you can retire, all these different things. If you work with a financial planner that has access to tools like this and you haven't seen this before, ask them and they might be able to run some numbers for you. The second thing you can do is a little bit more complicated, but it's called Monte Carlo analysis. And this adds a little bit more randomization to your sequence of returns over time. So you might have heard of something called sequence of returns risk. That means you run the risk of having particularly bad returns in the early parts of your retirement, leading to negative outcomes over the long term because you just can't make up that difference because of when you had bad returns. Good returns, bad returns, they're going to happen, but the order in which they happen has an impact. And so what Monte Carlo analysis does is it randomizes your returns to give you a variety of outcomes to see how often your plan actually will succeed once we factor in real-world volatility into the plan. In this person's case, they need about $1 million to be able to fund their retirement. In this case, we've got John and Mary Sample here, my great sample clients, and they are planning for a retirement in 10 years. And currently, based on our straight line assumptions, meaning the rate of return of about 5 and a bit, this tells them that they are currently on track for the retirement they want. Great, that's awesome. But as we talked about already, when you have returns that are just straight, that isn't really an average rate of return. What that's really showing you is a guaranteed return because there's no variance baked in there. So in this case, I'm going to create a Monte Carlo analysis that takes their approximate portfolio and adds some real world volatility to it. And we can see how often they are likely to succeed with this current plan. So I've got the Monte Carlo analysis running here. And so what it's doing is it's taking their approximate rate of return plus some standard deviation. So that's just how volatile the portfolio is. And it'll run a variety of simulations to see how often their plan will succeed once we get some real world volatility in here. My software runs 1,000 different simulations of a hypothetical future, and where we're at right now, we see about 800 simulations have been completed. There we go. We got 1,000 simulations done, and once we factor in that volatility and in our stress test here, only 68% of outcomes actually succeed, meaning they don't run out of money by age 90. And so even though their goal said, yeah, all well and good, everything looks okay, once we kind of put this into the real world a little bit, it doesn't really hold as much water. And so because this number is below 70%, 80%, 90% even, we might want to take a look at a few different things to enhance their odds of success over time, because in their case, they've got 10 years before they want to retire, so they do have enough time to maybe adjust how much they're saving when they take their government benefits, how long they actually want to work, paying off debt, whatever variables make the biggest difference for their retirement plan. Now, Monte Carlo analysis is a little bit more complicated than the average person is going to want to do on their own if they've never used software like that before. However, if you want to do it and you feel confident and you maybe just want to mess around with some numbers, head over to portfoliovisualizer.com. It's free to use their Monte Carlo tool. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. They do have some paid options to do more portfolio analysis type work, but the Monte Carlo is free. So you can head over to their website, scroll down to Monte Carlo simulation, and you can see all the different options you have to create some variance in your projections to give you a little bit more of a real world look at what your portfolio is going to do once you get to retirement. Nobody wants stress related to their retirement or anything to do with their money for that matter. And so stress testing your retirement plan in advance can really take that pressure off when the real stress of the real world and your actual retirement comes into play. Nothing is ever going to go perfectly. You'll never see straight lines straight up when it comes to portfolio returns or anything like that. The real world is going to happen to you. So if your retirement plan just looks at these perfect simulations of straight up numbers, everything looks rosy, it might be worth it to have a look at increasing the stress on the retirement plan a little bit before you actually get there. If this was interesting for you, I'm sure you know somebody that might benefit from it as well. Feel free to share it with a friend. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in another video.